Hey everyone, today for another vlog, and today I want to talk about how society is insane and how should probably stop fighting that. So this is sort of a message to my younger self who spend a lot of hours like trying to understand society, which is somewhat useful to some degree, right? Because obviously everyone lives within society, so understanding its mechanism and like its way of interacting with individuals, it's important to like it helps you like navigate it, right? Like as opposed to like sort of be powerless against it and so on. But I think you very quickly reach a point of like diminishing returns where you can try to understand society as much as you want, but it doesn't change it. First of all, because my personal view of society is that it's a non-human entity. It's not a the forces that shape society are not human, at least. So, for instance, technological progress cannot be reversed because the reason why technological progress happens is that if a country or like a let's say like a civilization was so like the Western world, let's say it's a general civilization. If a civilization decides to just stop progressing in terms of technology, then another civilization can just decide to progress, and then because it has superior weapons, it will dominate. As a result, technological progress happens because basically it provides power which unless you go for it, you will get killed in an arms race. It's basically what happens in adversarial relationships, which is what we constantly find ourselves surrounded by, right? So adversarial relationships, and so like society is shaped by technological progress, not because we consciously decide that technological progress is always good. It's very questionable whether technological progress is always good, but that's not why it's uh, always the direction that technology takes. Technological progress is the way it is because it provides uh, civilization with more power, and that's not something that human beings decide. So that's just one of the forces. That's just one of the instances of the way society is shaped by other forces other than us, right? Other than human beings. And there are many other examples, but this is not really the point of this video. The point of this video is that no, society is just insane. It's not sane, and perhaps instead of trying to fight it, we could at least I don't know if we could, but like I find that it's just easier at this moment in my life to stop fighting that and to just focus my time and energy on other things, which are personal life and the people around me and such, and making money on my own terms instead of having to play the game of society. Those sound a lot more worthwhile and spending more time understanding the beast, so to speak, when at this point I feel like I've very quickly run into like diminishing returns on in terms of like what it provides to my life to actually understand society. Like it would be far better to understand like relationships, also like work on things, or to just spend time with myself rather than just listen to videos talking about society. And so that was the understanding society part, and now let's talk about like the insane part. Like, why is society insane? Well, I think it's just kind of clear to me that like there's a huge gap between like personal relationships, right, and the type of relationships you have through society. The latter just tend to be very like very dehumanizing, right? So the way you're treated within society is incredibly dehumanizing and coercive, as in you're forced to do things you don't want to, and you're always reduced to like a set of like easily measurable features, right? Such as your grades or how many years of experience you have or how many hours of work you do per week, or because work is hard to measure, so the only thing that can really measure is how many hours you work, no matter how productive you actually are, right? Like I think it's quite clear to me that in a lot of employee jobs, um, the amount of productivity wouldn't significantly decrease if people just work like 28 hours per week, for instance, as opposed to 35, or like even something like 25. I don't think it would significantly decrease, honestly, because people would just be much better at organizing their time and they'll be a lot more focused. And because right now, when you have that much time, you just kind of tend to wasted on fucking meaningless shit, and it's kind of not very good. But again, it's not really the point of society, right? Society is not really about quality of life. It's not about productivity either. It's about control and power. And yeah, I've made a vlog about the 40-hour work week trap, and I think that's a big component of it. Like subsuming people into a cycle of consumerism and all that. But like if the relationship within society were like sane and open in terms of communication, like we wouldn't have such a thing as like a 40-hour work week or 35 plus, commute and all that. Um, because like there would be like sort of like mechanism to allow people to really do the amount of work that they really need to and that they want to. But that's the kind of relationships that society creates. And that's very different from like the type of relationships that you have like between individuals, right? Individuals can perceive one another and they can communicate, which is not possible for society. Society can never allow communication, in fact, because the power games are far too. The power games shape everything, right? So, you know, like it's like that this idea that like you can somehow teach critical thinking in school. It's complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit because like genuine critical thinking is cannot be restrained by like the type of power games that happen in society. But because school is very much at the center of the power games, like adult or teacher versus children, the children could never express their genuine thoughts about school and life and society and all that. And even if they could, I don't think anyone would listen to them. But yes, it's just like the power games that just dictate everything, and so like this idea that you can have like an honest conversation within a company or an honest conversation within school. It's pure bullshit. But on the other hand, if this is like the type of insane game that happens within society, there is very much a sane equivalent, which is not easy to find. Right? I'm not saying it's easy to find, but like it is very worthwhile, on the other hand, to find sane relationships where there is actual communication. And if not with other people, at least you can find it with yourself and perhaps with books. Right? That's at least a somewhat that's much better alternative than nothing. Because the relationship with yourself is what dictates a lot of other relationships, other people, and the world at large. Honestly, and it is very much a type of relationship where actual sanity and kindness can occur. Right? So, not so much in society because of some of the mechanisms I've talked about, the power games and such. But yeah, the relationship with yourself can very much be sane and kind. And it's not an easy thing to do again. It's because, unsurprisingly, when you're treated in a insane and unkind manner your entire life, it's it is unsurprising then that people treat themselves that way because in many ways this is how society works. Society installs a societal program within you such that you treat yourself in an unkind and uh, insane way as well. But fortunately, it is very much possible to undo that, at least partially, and any partial improvement is always a win, right? And yeah, I think the way to do that, I think for me the easiest way to like approach a sort of more compassionate way of talking to myself is to sort of like not really try to like love myself, but rather try to just simply understand myself. Like try to take the point of view of curiosity rather than love, because love is great, but I find that love is very difficult to like sort of grasp. Maybe grasp is not the right word, but like it's difficult for me to get into a mode of loving myself, but it is very easy for me to get into a mode of, if I'm willing to do it, of being curious about myself and asking just very basic questions. For instance, if there's something I want to do more of, let's say working more, like drawing more or exercising more, I could simply ask myself the question, why don't I do it more? What are the obstacles to do it? Or even more basic is like asking yourself simply, why do I want to do that? Usually the reasons are good, right? But it's good to make them explicit. In that case, it's not really the most important, but like sometimes we torture ourselves over doing things that are really not important, right? Like they're just proxies to do other things. So like I don't really have a good example, but like it's kind of interesting to me how a lot of activities within society they just feel like ways to like feel good within your body, but like they seem like very like roundabout ways of doing that. You know, like people working themselves to a burnout just so they can go on a holiday where they can feel good. Like that feels very backwards, you know. But I think there are better examples than this, but it's just the one that comes up right now. And so yeah, the type of like more sane and kind relationship, I think it's more easily approachable when you think of it in terms of curiosity. In my experience, at least, maybe some people can access love, but I think love is just an inherently difficult thing to find in society because in many ways society is kind of anti-love. Like it's not just that it's bad at love, but like in many ways the power games are the polar opposite of love. Like it's very like utilitarian adversarial relationship, whereas love is non-utilitarian and non-adversarial, right? So that's kind of how it feels to me. Love is just not easy to access when you've been within the modern world your entire life, right? Which is sort of like the perspective I'm taking. But for sure, love is obviously the desirable thing, and I think that's. It seems to me like that's basically the main thing that people seek at the end of the day. Is that not so much to be loved, but more honestly, I think people care deeply more about to loving other people than to be loved, honestly. But it's something I haven't really gone to the bottom of it because I think it's the kind of thing that requires life experience and not just talking. But like yeah, like people say that they want to be loved, but I think that's not really true. I think deep down what people want is to actually love other people, but they don't feel safe doing so, and as a result they always like ask the other person to do the first move, right? Because of like the fear of rejection and from the past of having your heart broken within society. Because society is a very, yeah, it's a very traumatizing place, and in many ways you could say that's so one of the features of society is that trauma that allows the societal program to infiltrate your mind and such. But yeah, just from my own experience, just yeah, society is just kind of a crazy place. Um, but you don't have to fight it, You don't have to fight it. You really don't have to fight it. You can simply decide to play another game. It's not an easy choice. It's not an easy game to play, but the possibility is there. You don't have to fight the game of society on its own terms. You can decide to play another game, and I think that's sort of what I would tell my younger self is that yeah, society is kind of insane, and you can just accept that, and you can just decide to walk away and find something better to do. Um, but society will obviously always try to get people to play its own game. Right? It's all like a vortex in a way, like on a tractor. It's the assumption that like life is a zero sum game. Like the more people believe in it, the more it becomes true, right? Because then as a result, you have wars over finite resources, which force people to play the zero sum game and such. So it's kind of a vortex in that sense, or on a tractor. But as an individual, it is very much possible to decide not to play that game. Maybe not every single time, but that's not the point. The point is not to be perfect. The point is not to never play the game of society. The point is to realize when you can play another game and to simply walk away from the game of society, I think. And so yeah, that's basically everything I had to say. Thank you for listening. See you next time.